Sounds like Spectrum, baby. You gotta get Spectrum.
Get award-winning internet for your business. Up to 4 months free when bundled. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News at 90. Former FBI Director James Comey is vowing to fight back after being indicted by the Department of Justice. In a video on Instagram, Comey said he was innocent and had confidence in the judicial system to prove that. Comey was charged with giving a false statement and obstructing congressional proceedings. The indictment comes days after President Donald Trump called on the DOJ to prosecute his political foes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke before the United Nations General Assembly Friday, promising to continue Israel's fight against Hamas. Dozens of delegates protested Netanyahu's appearance walking out before his speech. Netanyahu called for Hamas to release the remaining hostages and denounced the support for a Palestinian state after several nations, including U.S. allies, moved to formally recognize one earlier this week. Sinclair and Nexstar are ending their blackouts of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Both companies announced separately that the late-night show will return to affiliated ABC stations starting Friday nights. The move comes days after Disney's ABC network put the show back on air after nearly a week-long suspension. Disney suspended Kimmel after threats of potential repercussions from the FCC following TV host comments about Charlie Kirk's death. And that is your Spectrum News in 90.
Welcome to The Big Deal. I'm Errol Lewis, national political anchor at Spectrum News. This program focuses on the future of our country and its people, and there's a lot going on this week, from world leaders converging in New York for the United Nations General Assembly to the possibility of a federal government shutdown next week. And here's another big deal. The Justice Department has indicted former FBI Director James Comey in what is widely believed to be a politically motivated act of revenge by President Trump against an opponent. Comey has been charged with making a false statement and obstructing a congressional proceeding. He has denied any wrongdoing. Here's some of what we have heard about the case.
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial.
Joining me now with more are two top political analysts. Holly Gregory is the political anchor for Bay News 9 in Tampa, Florida. Taylor Popolars is the Spectrum News national political reporter outside the White House. And Taylor, Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor in this case, was one of President Trump's former lawyers. She was appointed just on Monday. She's never taken a case to trial before, and certainly nothing like charges against the FBI former director have ever happened. So a lot of firsts here, but this may not be the last case of its kind, right?
That's right, Errol. It's pretty stunning being here at the White House each day and hearing from both the president and his other administration officials openly talking about their desire to see people who President Trump has clashed with politically over the years be charged. The president, just on Friday morning after James Comey was indicted, claimed that he does not have an enemies list per se, but he also said he hopes and he thinks that other people will be charged. He's talked about everyone from U.S. senators to sitting attorneys general to the former FBI director. director. And as you talked about Lindsay Halligan, she has zero prosecutorial experience. Before she joined the president's personal legal team a couple of years ago, she practiced tax law for a couple of years, but that was it.
Okay, so now, Holly, meanwhile in New York, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the United Nations on Friday, and dozens of representatives from different countries walked out before he even began his speech. The prime minister vowed to continue the war in Gaza, to, quote, finish the job against Hamas, and he rejected the creation of a Palestinian state, which has been backed by more than 150 of the UN's 193 nations. What was notable about his address?
Well, Errol, I think most notable is he basically called the leaders of those nations essentially a bunch of cowards. To quote him exactly, he said that those leaders were weak-kneed, that they had caved, he said, to Islamic terror. He said for those European nations that pressure was coming from inside their countries now because they had allowed unchecked migration into their countries. He also reminded everyone about the atrocities of the Hamas October 7th attack, and he spoke directly to the remaining hostages. He said that his words, as he spoke them in Hebrew, were being blasted, being pumped into the audio into Gaza in hopes that some of those hostages may hear him say that they would never give up, that they would continue to fight to get them out of that situation that they're in. But really the global momentum here, as you just mentioned, for whatever it may be worth to Netanyahu, they are pushing for a Palestinian state. And he's moving toward annexation, it almost seems like, in what he is doing in his actions in the war. Trump, though, said in the Oval Office yesterday he would not allow annexation to take place. He would not allow Netanyahu to do that. And today, Errol, Trump said that there is a deal on Gaza. Now, he did not lay out what a ceasefire might look like. He didn't give any details, but we do know he's meeting with Netanyahu on Monday. So perhaps we'll get more information about that and see what a path forward might look like.
Okay, now, Taylor, earlier in the week, President Trump delivered his address to the United Nations, where he went on a tirade about how he's been, quote, right about everything. And he even told other world leaders that their countries are going to hell. But away from the cameras, did he have a different tone? Did any diplomacy get done on behalf of the United States?
So the administration will say 100%, and there often is kind of an on-camera Donald Trump and an off-camera Donald Trump. But we know that the president met with well over a dozen world leaders on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. These ranked from high-ranking meetings with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to a group of Middle Eastern leaders to talk about the war in Gaza, to lesser-known foreign leaders who don't always get FaceTime with the president. The Trump administration has been talking up specifically the president's meeting with Zelensky about Ukraine, and we saw the president do a 180 and say that he's now hoping that Ukraine will earn back and win back its territory that's been stolen from Russia. Just a few weeks ago, the president was talking about Ukraine having to give up territory in order for this war to come to an end. And the president claimed that the meeting with those Middle Eastern leaders about the war between Israel and Hamas was going well ahead of his one-on-one meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, which will happen here at the White House on Monday. So it seems like a lot was done, but that speech you referenced was pretty jarring. The president spoke extensively about immigration, and that line telling the world leaders your countries are going to hell was specifically about immigration and why the president thinks immigration should either be entirely slowed or in some cases stopped around the world like he's done here in the U.S. So that was pretty striking to hear.
Holly, another big story. We are just days away from a potential government shutdown next week if Democrats and Republicans can't come to an agreement. It looks like the two sides are not even talking. The White House Budget Office has reportedly been telling federal agencies to prepare for mass layoffs. Who is the public likely to blame when the national parks start closing and people start getting furloughed and so forth?
I think we're likely to find that out because it certainly looks like we are headed that direction. One thing is for sure, Americans do not like government shutdowns. In their view, that's not what they sent their leaders to Washington to do. They sent them to, fight it out and get things done. So they're never popular. And usually the party in power, and you've got Republicans with the presidency in both chambers of Congress, they tend to take more of the blame here. Democrats also think that they have a winning issue in saying, hey, we're trying to get money back for health care. care. Republicans and Trump are countering that by saying what they really want is millions of dollars in health care for illegal aliens. Thune knows that in the Senate that he has to do some negotiation on those health care dollars, and he's saying, we're not going to do it this way. Pass the continuing resolution, the clean resolution, and we'll talk health care spending later. But Chuck Schumer knows he can't do that. He's got no runway to do that again because his base was livid when he did that the last time. But in the background here looming, you have Russell Vought over at the budget office, who's basically wringing his hands, waiting for the opportunity. He's already got the blueprint laid out to start axing people in bureaucracy. And he is waiting for the moment to do that in a much more powerful way than Doge ever did. So it's going to be, how long does this last? How painful is it? And who controls the messaging on it?
Okay. We'll be watching all of that next week. Thank you very much, Holly. Thank you, Taylor. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll talk about the deal to save TikTok and what it will mean for American users. That's next on The Big Deal.
Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual. When I come home and a few generations. You're always there. And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Being a cowboy, well, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Watching The Big Deal. It's official now. TikTok can continue operating in the United States under new American ownership. President Trump signed an executive order on Thursday that allows an American-led group of investors to buy 80% of the app from ByteDance, a China-based company. There have long been privacy and data concerns surrounding the app. Spectrum News anchor Taylor Brook takes a closer look in this report.
Since its launch in 2016, short-form video app TikTok has risen to one of the most popular social media apps in the world. Fueled by its addictive algorithm, the app hosts more than 1.5 billion active users worldwide. What began as music-based fun with the infamous dancing challenges and lip-sync videos has morphed into a platform for culture, commerce, activism, and politics. Make sure you get through and vote. But TikTok's success has ignited concerns in Washington. Some lawmakers worry that China's authoritarian government could force ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, to share sensitive U.S. user data or manipulate content for influence.
Either there used to be a firewall with Beijing or TikTok needs to be shut down, in my view, because right now it's just a spying app for the Communist Chinese Party.
Last year, Congress passed a law mandating the app divest its U.S. assets to an American buyer or face a nationwide ban, citing national security concerns. In January, the Supreme Court upheld that law, but President Trump has pushed back the divestment deadline 4 times since.
I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points.
Still, many Americans wonder, is the sale really necessary?
Is TikTok truly a threat to national security?
It's complicated. TikTok is both a national security threat and not a very significant one. There's no risk to the general user. The main risks are to the more high-profile users, government users, people with classified information.
Scholars like Christopher McKnight-Nichols, an expert in national security at Ohio State University, say all social media platforms collect large amounts of data, so singling out one app isn't reasonable.
There are many other apps out there that are Chinese-owned. Why is TikTok at the center of all this?
Because it's so beloved. It generates so much revenue for people. There are lots and lots of other apps that have the same kinds of data processing, data collection concerns. Many of them are American, and we know that they've also been used against national security interests, such as in the election of 2016, and they're not subject to this ban.
Chad Morning, a cybersecurity professor at Ohio University, says the TikTok debate is less about safety and more about global competition in a fight to control technology.
I don't think anyone would disagree that China is our #1 geopolitical rival at this point. We do not want to give them more influence than we have to.
He says if the app were banned, users would find a workaround. During TikTok's temporary suspension in January, many users flocked to RedNote, another Chinese-owned app.
I think they know better than thinking if they shut it down, the problem's going to go away. I think they know the problem's going to go somewhere else.
Other scholars say the threatened ban may have darker motivations. Edith DeShiel, the director of the E.W. Scripps School of Journalism at Ohio University, says some users think it's about suppressing free speech.
If you weren't sure just how badly U.S. politicians wanted to shut you up and have you fall in line, this is your proof.
There are a lot of people who use TikTok to share their opinions or to share stories that the mainstream media don't cover. And if you can ban it outright or get a U.S. company that you have control over to buy it, then you are controlling the message.
No matter the motivation, these scholars say a sale seems near, but say it still won't fix the data and privacy fears.
The consensus practically amongst all national security experts is that we need better privacy laws, cybersecurity laws, data management laws, data collection and processing and storage laws. So if it's an American company or a British company or a French company, the next day we could still be talking about national security concerns.
Taylor Bruck joins me now from Columbus, Ohio. And Taylor, is this deal expected to change the way that more than 170 million Americans are using TikTok?
Errol, I think that's a question that many Americans and TikTok users are waiting to find out themselves. Many are asking, what will the new American-controlled algorithm look like? Some users are worried their opinions, their viewpoints won't be pushed out as much, maybe be censored. I mean, the president even joked yesterday that if he could make it 100% MAGA, he would. We know, of course, there are safeguards in place as part of the deal to try to prevent some of that. But if someone's user experience changes or maybe their For You page looks different, it'll be interesting to see if they stick with TikTok or maybe move to another app. Another thing to note, a Pew Research poll shows 43% of U.S. adults under the age of 30 say they regularly get their news from TikTok, more so than any other social media site, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So again, if they feel like their user experience changes or maybe the messaging on their For You page has changed at all, it'll be interesting to see if that TikTok stays their top app.
You also talk to a lot of creators who are relying on TikTok to make a living, and I'm sure they're happy that this is all going to continue for them, but I was really struck by something that you came across in your reporting. You discovered this rising trend among young people about this desire to be TikTok influencers. I don't think of that as a real job, but 57% of Gen Z, according to one poll, say that they want to do that for a living. Tell us about that.
It's becoming a real job. I mean, many users definitely very happy that TikTok is sticking around because people are making a significant amount of money with TikTok. I spoke with two creators from Ohio. One person said 50% of his income comes directly from TikTok. He makes about $10,000 a month. Another creator said she makes upwards of 6 figures a year. So this is substantial money that we're talking about. That is partly why, Errol, we're seeing this trend of more people wanting to become influencers, because people online, they're talking openly about how much money they're making. They're traveling the world, they're doing all these fun things, right? And they're doing it on their own time. So this is very enticing to the Gen Z generation. But I want to note that same poll, Errol, said 41% of all U.S. adults actually said they have a desire to be influencers. So we are seeing this among people of all ages.
Oh man, everybody getting into the act. Let me ask you about the shadow side of this for young TikTok users. You spoke to the parents of a boy who died after trying a dangerous social media challenge, as well as an expert who studies how social media can be dangerous. What did you learn about how young kids can actually stay safe on these apps like TikTok?
Yeah, so the lady I spoke with, she's the president of the American Counseling Association. She said that there are a lot of reasons that social media can be dangerous. Exposure to inappropriate content is one, but there's also cyberbullying on the app, right? There's sextortion scams. There's a lot of different reasons. Online predators, right? So she said parental supervision on these apps is absolutely crucial because social media in the United States right now lacks comprehensive federal regulation. So she said make sure parents set firm limits with social media, have open dialogue with their children, do random phone checks, and absolutely keep phones out of the bedroom. It is important to note TikTok does have a lot of great safety features, but she says we just need to be aware of them and know how to use them.
All right, thanks very much, Taylor. Great reporting. If you want to watch some of Taylor's other reporting on TikTok, head to the website on your screen. We are not done just yet. Coming up next, it has been 1 year since Hurricane Helene devastated parts of North Carolina. We're going to talk about the state's recovery efforts next. Stay with us.
The stories that touch our border affect us all. That's why at Spectrum News Plus, we don't just cover these communities. Our dedicated reporting team also calls them home. That perspective allows us to take an in-depth look, going beyond the politics, to see the impact on people's lives and what it means for you and your community. Balanced border coverage that tells the full story here on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost, and that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure, why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah! Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
What are you doing in there?
What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Thanks for staying with The Big Deal. This week marked 1 year since Hurricane Helene made landfall, leaving a path of destruction from Florida to North Carolina. Our Spectrum News journalists crisscrossed North Carolina to check in with the hard-hit communities a year later and highlight their struggles and their resiliency.
In 24 hours, lives changed and entire communities washed off the map.
Flash flood emergencies in effect in a lot of spots, all of the red outlined areas.
I already knew by noon that the shop was destroyed.
But in 365 days, you'd be amazed by the power of resilience.
People were like, what are you going to do? Are you going to rebuild? And I'm like, I have to.
I feel like everybody here is my family, you know, and I just want to protect them and make sure they're safe.
A lot of times we're going through hard places and dark places, amen. But God is right there with us while we're going through them.
Western North Carolina's recovery from Helene is a twisting, bumpy, heart-wrenching journey, one taking much longer than a year.
Our little community was just destroyed on September 27th, and it has taken so long to get a tiny bit of normalcy.
Built back by hand, brick by brick.
We're all sticking together. The community is tight, and it's getting better every day.
Joining me now from Raleigh to talk more about the politics of Hurricane Helene recovery, I've got Spectrum News political anchor Tim Boyum. And Tim, I know you guys did an amazing amount of work there on the ground. You did a town hall and a lot of other parts of the reporting on these hard-hit communities. A year later, how would you say the recovery and rebuilding efforts are going, especially without the crucial federal funding that the state has been seeking?
Well, and that's a big part of it. Just to put this in perspective, some 74,000 homes were damaged or destroyed. Some 10,000 roads were destroyed in the state or damaged and need to be repaired. And it was expected to cost about $62 billion. North Carolina's total budget per year is about $32 billion. So obviously going to need federal funding there. Most of the fixes and repairs so far have been done actually by charitable organizations like Samaritan's Purse or Baptists on Mission. And so they're still waiting on federal government money. It's been promised over $10 billion already. The governor says only 11% of the federal money has come in so far. Bipartisan complaints about red tape that takes programs forever to get in place. And also, Kristi Noem has to personally approve any spending over $100,000. They believe that has slowed a lot of the relief.
Oh, wow. During his address to the United Nations this week, President Trump said that the UN's predictions about the impacts of climate change are not true and have been exaggerated. Listen to this.
It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong.
Now, I mean, there's overwhelming scientific evidence that climate change is real, but from your perspective, do folks in North Carolina think that that's responsible for the extreme weather events like Hurricane Helene?
Well, in some ways, it depends on if we're talking politically, what side of the aisle you stand for on this. But yeah, I don't think there's any question. Look, we've had massive storms, and some say it's not even the amount of storms, it's the amount of rain that's coming with it. They're just sitting there and dropping rain. We're talking up to 30 inches of rain with some of these storms in the last 10 years in North Carolina. There's a little town called Canton, which is outside of Asheville, far outside in the mountains of North Carolina. They've had more tropical systems hit them directly than some areas along the South Carolina coast. That little town has been just ravaged by storms 3 times in the last 5 years alone. So people don't think about tropical storms hitting the mountains of North Carolina, but they certainly are.
Okay, well, you all have done amazing reporting down there. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Tim Boyum. And to catch North Carolina's special report on Hurricane Helene, head to the website on your screen. That's going to do it for this episode of The Big Deal. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned to your local Spectrum station.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill, and with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it's saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum